In the city of towers, where gold met the sky, where the sun painted wealth as it passed softly by, lived a prince with a name sung in verses of pride, Hamdan of the desert, with stars as his guide. He rode with the falcons, he whispered to wind, a soul born of silence, where visions had thinned. The poor found him kind, the strong bowed in grace, no shadow dared linger too long in his face. Yet the moon knows the truth that the daylight conceals, that power is fragile where silence appeals. And in halls made of marble, behind golden screens, jealousy plotted in slow-moving schemes. He woke to a whisper knock, cold and dry. By order of council, the guards did reply. Chains never forged for a crown-born son were clamped on his wrists for the rising of sun. He spoke not a word as they took him away, past the palms he had planted, now wilting and grey. The stallions neighed sorrow, the minarets wept, and Dubai, in its beauty, in silence still slept. The people, they gathered with questions in eyes, like desert birds sensing a storm in the skies. Was he not the poet, the writer, the flame? What crime could have folded so noble a name? Some say it was envy, the court's quiet curse, a plot inked in shadows, in gossip and verse. Some say it was truth too sharp to ignore. He had spoken too freely of famine and war. Locked in a tower with windows like blades, he wrote on the walls what the silence forbade. Lines full of longing, of nation and grief, of leaders who traded their gold for belief. O Hamdan, O falcon, who clipped your wings, what fear turned the wise into cruel-hearted kings? What court so dishonors the one who stood tall, to break him with silence, to see the just fall? In a palace of silver where sunrise first kissed, where dreams drank from fountains and marble was mist, a prince once stood, eyes steady with grace, Hamdan, the noble, the voice of this place. The people would chant when his stallion appeared. The poor felt seen, the voiceless felt heard. He danced with the verses, he raced with the breeze, and loved like the tide that caresses the seas. No tyrant he, but a falcon set free, a prince with a pen, not a scepter or decree, but words are like daggers to men who wear crowns, and truth, like a tide, may cause empires to drown. A whisper grew heavy in corridors grand, a shadow unfurled by an unseen hand. The court grew uneasy, the council grew cold, for Hamdan spoke truths that no coin could withhold. He questioned the towers built high with the pain of workers forgotten in dust and in chain. He mourned for the valleys where nothing could grow, and sang of the orphans the kingdom won't show. Then came the morning, cruel and still. No bird song, no breeze, no voice on the hill. A knock like thunder on cedar wood roared, and soldiers in silence stood near his door. By order of law, they coldly declared, the prince must surrender. The council is scared. No trial, no reason, no parchment, no seal, just cuffs of betrayal and boots made of steel. They marched him through halls where his laughter had rung, where poetry bloomed and children had sung. He looked to the sky, but the falcons had flown, and silence became the crown on his throne. The people were hushed, the markets grew still, even the fountains forgot how to spill. What crime, they wondered, could one so beloved be stripped from the stars and dragged from above? Whispers turned into a storm in the square. Where is our prince? Do the rulers not care? But fear is a leash, and silence a chain. The people could feel his sorrow, like rain, locked in a chamber, high over the sand, with nothing but ink and a cut on his hand. He wrote not for pardon, nor for his pride, but letters to time, as the falcon inside refused to die. The wings remember, The walls heard his verses, the ceiling his cries, but no one responded, not even the skies. He carved into stone, where his name once adorned, now stripped from the prayer, forgotten and scorned. But night has a kindness, and stars never lie. They watched his despair with tears in their sky. A god, once a poet, read what he wrote, the sorrowful hymns, the freedom-bound notes, and words slowly fluttered like wings in the dusk, that the prince still dreamed in his tower of husk. The people, though frightened, began to recall the man who once taught them that pride should stand tall. A woman in black left her veil on the sand and whispered his name as she lifted her hand. A child drew wings on a wall in the street and said, "This is Hamdan, who never knew defeat." And slowly the silence began to uncoil, like rivers unfreezing in frost-bitten soil. The merchants grew bolder, the minstrels sang songs, and stories returned of his righting of wrongs. The council grew nervous. "The people are stirred," said one with a frown. "It started with words." "He must not return," said a voice dressed in pearls, "or the sand will remember, and so will the world." But a storm, once summoned, cannot be undone. It gathers in silence, then crashes as one. And one night, the people, like thunder, arose, a sea made of fury that endlessly grows. They stood by the gates with candles in hand, demanding to see the lost prince of their land. And from high in his tower, Hamdan heard the cry, like falcons returning to color the sky. The council refused, but the will had been cast. The people, once broken, had shattered the past. A guard laid his weapon down on the floor and whispered, "Your Highness, I serve you once more." The locks were unfastened, the chamber undone, and Hamdan stepped out like the blaze of the sun. His beard now held sorrow, his eyes knew the pain, but the falcon had risen, returned once again. He stood on the steps with a silence so wide that time seemed to hush. The wind stepped aside. "I do not return as a prince to this place, but as one of the people, with tears on my face. I've seen how the truth is a blade in the dark, how justice may flicker, but leaves still a spark. You chained me in silence, but you cannot bind the wings of a people who've opened their mind." The city erupted, not in revolt, but in reverence, truth now free from its vault. The council fell silent, their riches a curse, their power dissolved in the strength of his verse. And though he declined the crown once again, he walked with the people, not rulers in vain. He planted new palms where the old ones had died, and taught the next poet to sing with his stride. Some say he still walks where the jasmine trees bloom, that he hums to the moon and weeps for the doomed. Others say falcons still circle above where the prince found his purpose, not power, but love.